Okay, so what we want to do is we want to continue our discussion here, and we want to look at a completely different model, and that would be production possibilities curves. So we know, let's go back and review. We know we have this idea of our resources, and we know that we want to turn these guys into goods and services. All right. And we know that those resources are limited and scarce. Therefore, we know that the goods and services themselves are going to be limited and scarce because we can't create these goods and services out of thin air. So, in essence, we're going to have this problem. And if there's some amount of resources here that are not being used, whatever this fraction is, right? It's this fraction here, not used. Is it obvious that this guy is going to be a little bit smaller, right? Not created. Is that obvious? If we have resources that are not being used, there's going to be stuff that's not being made, right? Because we can't make goods and services out of thin air. We're not God. We have to have resources to make those goods and services. The problem is that even if we do get and wind up and use all of these guys, we're still going to have a limited amount of goods and services to produce. That's just the way there is. So what we want to know is we want to know what type of methods or methodologies or whatever can we use to kind of understand this problem in a little bit more detail. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use something called the production possibilities curve. Okay. Now, before we start looking at this guy, we need to define a few terms. We need to define full employment and we need to define full production. Okay. So full employment means we're going to be using all of these resources. Okay. It does not mean that we're overexploiting the environment or that you're using child labor or something like that, right? Here's your set of resources. We want to use them all. We don't want resources sitting idle. It doesn't make sense to have people unemployed that want to work. It doesn't make sense to build factories and have them sit there, right? So we want to use all of these available resources. Full production is this idea. We want to use these resources where they will have the greatest effect on output. Now we'll define this guy as essentially using resources producing with the goods and services they have a comparative advantage in. We'll define what we mean by comparative advantage a little bit later on. But we can kind of conceptualize what this guy means right now, and let's look at it like this. We've got oranges that we want to grow. And the question is, can we grow these guys in northern Canada? Can we grow oranges in northern Canada? Not easily, because we could do it. What would we have to have? A greenhouse, right? You could grow oranges in North Canada. And you might even use full employment of all of your resources to try to make that happen, right? It might take a whole lot of more resources to try to grow oranges in North Canada. In fact, it does take a whole lot more resources to try to grow oranges in northern Canada than it does in Florida. So we might have full employment, but that's not full production, right? That's not using those resources we're going to have the greatest effect on output, right? In other words, it's much easier to grow oranges in Florida where they naturally want to grow and let northern Canada grow wheat. Okay? So we have this idea of our full employment and full production, right? So let's look at some assumptions here. The economy is operating efficiently, right? And what we mean by this is that we have full employment and full production. We're producing the goods and services that we have a comparative advantage in. We have the resources are not sitting idle, right? People have jobs, factories are being used. We don't have stuff just sitting around doing nothing. Our resources are fixed in quantity. Okay. So we have our factors of production, which is another name for our resources. Our factors of production are fixed in quantity, right? The labor force isn't growing or shrinking. The amount of capital is not increasing or decreasing. Land's not increasing or decreasing, etc. Our factors of production are fixed in quality, right? So our labor force is becoming more educated or less educated. Capital's not increasing or decreasing in quality, etc. Technology is fixed, right? So what do we mean by technology? When you hear the word technology, what do you think of? Yeah, computers, right? It's generally what people say. But that's not in essence what we mean, right? What we mean by technology is our knowledge of how to turn resources into goods and services. We kind of saw that last time on the video, right? Where we had people that were taking different types of chemicals and turning them into something completely different, right? Or people were combining this stuff to create something else. Or people are using all of these different things to create brand new products, right? None of that stuff necessarily needed computers per se. Okay. So we have these 4 assumptions here. Oh, let's have 2 goods, pizza and textbooks. We have these assumptions here. We've got 2 goods, pizza and textbooks. And in essence, what we're saying is that, well, our economy is operating efficiently. In other words, we're using all of our resources. We're using them. We're going to have the greatest effect on output. Our factors of production are fixed in quantity and quality, and our level of technology is fixed. Now, do we typically see this? The labor force doesn't change at all. The labor force isn't getting more educated or less educated, and our knowledge of how to turn stuff into goods and services isn't changing at all. Do we see that? No, all right? So we can think of this as a snapshot. Because over time, we know that these guys are changing. All right? So we're just looking at a snapshot for right now. We'll change these assumptions here in a few minutes. So let's look at our choices. So we're going to have textbooks up here. We have pizza here, right? And if we devote all of our resources to making textbooks, we can make 10 textbooks. And if we have all of our resources making textbooks, how many pizzas can we make? 0, right? If we devote all of our resources to making pizza, we can make 4 pizzas. Okay. And if we have all of our resources being devoted to pizza, how many textbooks can we make? 0. So here are 5 of our different choices, right? We've got 10 textbooks and 1 pizza, 9 books, or strike that, 10 textbooks and 0 pizzas, 9 textbooks, 1 pizza, 7 and 2, 4 and 3, 0 and 4, right? And we can look at these on a graph. So we're going to put pizza over here for no particular reason. We'll put books over here. Bless you. Okay. And we've got these little sets of choices here, right? So here's 10. I'll call this guy A. Here was 9, and he was like, say, here. Call this guy B. Here was 7. I'll put him out here. C. Here's 4. I'll call him D. Here's E. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So here's our 5 different choices plotted on a graph. All right. Now, are there really only 5 different choices? No. Can you make half a pizza? Yeah, right? I get half homeworks, half quizzes, half tests all the time, right? You can totally make half a pizza. You can totally make half a textbook, right? So we don't actually have 5 different choices. How many choices do we actually have? An infinite number of choices, right? Very good. And when we connect all of those infinite number of choices together, we get the production possibilities curve, right? Because this curve shows all the different possible production alternatives given this set of choices over here, right? Given the set of choices that we are operating efficiently, our factors of production are fixed in quantity, our factors of production are fixed in quality, and our technology is fixed. Now, which point is best? What'd you say? So you got this one right here. So what's your name? Mary. So Mary says D is best. What do you think?
It's anything on the line.
Well, so which one would you choose? C. So she chooses C. So what's your name? Courtney. C or K?
C.
Who's right? Is it C or is it D? We're going to have an election. Do we want 7 textbooks and 2 pizzas, or do we want 4 books and 3 pizzas? Any of these points on the curve is just as good as any other point. There isn't any best point per se on the curve, right? Which point you want to be at, A, B, C, D, or E, which one's best, quote unquote, is a normative issue. But we can look at a couple of other points. We can look at, say, point F. And point G, and I'm going to make point F right here. So point F is 4 books and 1 pizza. So let's look at this guy for a second. 4 books and 1 pizza. Is he possible? Yeah. Because it's possible when we're making 1 pizza to make as many as 9 books. What do we have to do to make 4 books instead of 9? Yeah, just be inefficient. Just be lazy. That's all you got to do. Not have people work, right? So we see that this guy is possible, but not efficient. Let's look at point G. Point G, I'm going to stick out here. So point G here is 7 books. And 3 pizzas. What's true about this guy? It's not possible. It's not a matter of working harder. It's a matter of we can't do that. We do not have either the quantity or the quality or the level of technology to make point G. He is not possible. So this guy, point G here, not possible. Right? So if we're comparing the guys on the line to the guys inside, the guys on the line are better than the guys inside. That's not normative, that's positive. The guy outside here being better than the guys on the line, that's true. Right? That's not a positive, I mean, that's not a normative issue, that's a positive issue. But as to which point we want to be on the line, that's a normative issue. So we can say that the points on the line are superior, they're better than the points inside. We can say that points outside are better than points on the line. We can't say which point on the line we want to be at. That we can't say. I mean, you can say that, that's what we have to do. But you can't say B is better than D, right? That value is subjective sort of thing that we talked about earlier. You can't objectively measure value. You cannot say D is clearly superior to B, because it's not. It depends on people's preferences. Okay, so let's look at something here. Let's assume we're at point A. And we move to point B. What do we gain? Very good. So we're going to gain a pizza. What do we lose? 1 book. Very good. All right. So we have an opportunity cost here. I'm just going to abbreviate opportunity cost OC. We have an opportunity cost here of 1 book. Let's go from point B to point C. What do we gain? Very good. What's its opportunity cost? Very good. Everyone see that? So when we go from point A to point B, we're going to gain a book. We're going to lose, strike that. We gain a pizza, we're going to lose a book, right? So here is that opportunity cost for our first pizza, right? Here's the opportunity cost for our second pizza, right? In essence, you're just going here. Right? Here's what you had to gain the second time. Let's go from point C to point D. What do we gain? I already started writing it. What do we gain? 1 pizza. What's the opportunity cost? 3 books. All right. And you can actually measure the size of that. Let's see, we'll use green this time. Here. All right. This green guy larger than the red guy? Red guy larger than the blue guy? No. Let's go from point D to point E. Bless you. What do we gain? One pizza. What do we lose? What's its opportunity cost? Mm-hmm. And you can actually measure that here. We'll do it with this guy right here. Here in black. Okay. So let's think very, very carefully about what's happening here. As we make more and more pizzas, what's happening to the opportunity cost of another pizza? It's getting bigger, right? We call this the law of increasing opportunity cost. And what this law of increasing opportunity cost says is that as you make more and more units of a good, the opportunity cost of making more increases. Hence the name increasing opportunity cost. Okay. So as we try to make more and more pizzas, the opportunity cost, what we're going to have to give up in terms of books, is going to go up. Right? And we can see that there. The first pizza only cost us 1 book. The second pizza, though, cost us 2 books. The third pizza cost us 3 books. The fourth pizza cost us 4 books. Why? Why does the opportunity cost increase? Well, why would the opportunity cost not stay the same? Be constant. Every single time you wanted another pizza, it'll cost you a book.
Someone might be better making pizzas than textbooks.
That's it right there. Resources are not perfect substitutes for each other. So let's think very, very carefully about what this guy says. What does it take to make pizza? What do you need? Dough, sauce, cheese, toppings, what did you say? An oven. What else? Pan. Is pizza going to assemble itself? Labor. Yada, 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 right? Blah, 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 blah. You got an idea of what it takes to make a pizza. You've all seen pizza before. You know what it is. Right? It's not that complicated. What does it take to make textbooks? Paper. Ink. Glue. Printer. Press. Printing press / binding. A writer. / editor. Yada, 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 yada. Right? So you know what it takes to make a book. Does our economy contain all of these resources? Yes, because we can make textbooks and pizzas. Therefore, we have to have a printing press and a binding machine and an oven. You have to, because we know that we can make textbooks and pizzas. Now let's think very, very carefully about this. So here we are, we're making all textbooks, and we say, I don't want to make all textbooks, I want to make some pizzas. How much does that contribute to textbook production? Very little, right? When I was in college, our landlord, our oven was gas, the heat in the house was electric. He paid the gas bill, we paid the electric bill. So what we would do on cold days in northeast Missouri, we would crank up the oven to 500 degrees, open the door, stick a fan in front of it, and it blows free heat out, right? So we could use the oven to heat part of the place where we're printing, right? It doesn't have zero value, but it doesn't have a whole lot of value, right? So as we're here at A, we're releasing, and we're moving to B, we're releasing resources. And we're going to release the resources that are really, really good at making pizzas. Well, that's going to be the oven and the sauce, which we were using to lubricate the binding machine, right? But we found something better. We found, 3-in-1 oil or whatever. So we're releasing these resources that are really good at making pizzas, but they're not very good at making ovens. And because they weren't they're not really good at making books. Because they weren't really good at making books, book production doesn't fall by that much. It only falls by 1. And then as we get farther and farther down this guy, as we go from like D to E, now we're trying to take all of these resources over here that are really, 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 really good at making books and not that great at making pizzas, and try to get them to make pizzas. And since they're really good at making books, book production falls by a whole lot. And since they're not that great at making pizzas, pizza production doesn't go up by that much, right? So these resources are not perfect substitutes for each other, and because of that, we have this law of increasing opportunity cost. As we try to make more and more and more of some good, the opportunity cost is going to increase. And you can see this here, right? Here's education. Here's healthcare. And I'm going to, just to show you that this isn't a contrived example, I mean, this doesn't show increasing opportunity costs because I drew it trickily, right? I'm going to make these all guys the same. Okay, so here's 4 units of education, here's 3 units of education, here's 2 units of education, here's 1 unit of education. Healthcare can be anything up here. Here's healthcare, all right? So here you are at some point. It can be any point that you want it to be. Right? As we go from making all healthcare to making education, right? We've got 1 unit of education here. Here was the opportunity cost. There's what it cost us in terms of healthcare. That's how much healthcare we had to lose, right? And we want to make another unit of education. All we did was double this guy. That guy in green is clearly larger than the guy in red. And all we want to do is increase it again, 1 more unit. That guy in blue is clearly larger than the guy in green, right? And then once again, right, going from, I guess I'll use black. And then we have this guy down here, right? So if we're at this point right here, and it could be anywhere, we're here. and the politician says, we're going to have more education and more health care. Because that's what they say. Is that going to be possible? No. Right? If you want more health care, that's fine. But this guy actually has to decrease, not increase. Right? And the same thing if you're here. Right? If you're here and you say, we're going to have more education and more health care, I mean, that's fine. But this guy has to go down, right? I mean, and you can see it. I mean, I'm a perfect example, right? I mean, my name is, or my title, Dr. Mitchell, right? Do you want me operating on you? No, right? I'm not that kind of doctor. So, let's assume we live in a totalitarian state where they say, we don't want you doing education anymore. We're going to put you in the healthcare field. Okay, it's fine. What can I do in the healthcare field? I can be an administrator. What else? Can I hand a scalpel to the doctor? Scalpel. Can I do that? Stat. All right? I can say stat. Right? I can clean up after people after they've thrown up from having surgery. All right? And all of the other things that goes into it, blah, 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 blah. But I can't operate on people. Right? So if you take me, and I like to think that I have a comparative advantage in education. If you switch me from education to healthcare, because I'm really, really good at education, this guy goes down by a whole lot. But I'm not that good at healthcare. I don't really enjoy that. This guy goes up by a little bit. All right? And so the total is actually kind of, I mean, if you want more healthcare, that's fine. You know, so stick me in where I'm going to have the greatest effect on healthcare. I don't know where that's going to be. But healthcare is going to go up by a little bit. Education is going to go down by a lot. We're going to have this increasing opportunity cost as we want to make more and more of some good. Whatever that something is, it doesn't matter. So when a politician tells you we're going to have both more education, both more healthcare, we're going to have more national defense, and everyone's taxes are going to get cut, you know that's not happening. That can't be true. Something has to go down. All right? You have to have this opportunity cost. This is the thing that people also don't understand. People don't understand why we were here, wherever this point is, for health care, and then they said, we want more health care, and that's fine. You can have more health care if you want. You can have all the health care you want. I could care less. All right? Or you're here, wherever you're here. And people say, oh, we want more health care. We want to go this way. That's fine. But that health care cost has to be increasing, which is exactly what it's been doing, right? I mean, if you look at 2008 to today, the total amount spent on health care has been going up. That's not surprising. The opportunity cost is going up. It's not going down because as you want more of something, the law of increasing opportunity cost says getting more units of something is going to have a larger and larger and larger opportunity cost. It's just the way that it is. And that's going to be true, like we said, for education, for whatever. I mean, whatever it is that they're promising you. Questions about this before we move on? Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be this. It can be your economics test. And biology. The more time you spend studying for economics, the less time you have to spend studying for biology. I need to study more for biology. That's fine. Going this way, that means less time to study for economics. Right? Increasing opportunity costs. So let's go back and look at our assumptions, right? We said our resources were fixed. In quantity. Our sources are fixed in quality. And our technology is fixed. What happens when these guys change? Because these guys do change. No texting in class, please. Thank you. What happens when these guys change?
You can increase production.
Exactly. Right? So let's look at whatever, education, healthcare, doesn't matter. Or let's do something stupid. Here's our production possibilities curves for computers and beach balls. Okay. So if we see a change here in our level of resources, our quantity of resources, or a change in our quality of resources, or our level of technology. Remember, technology is just knowledge of how to turn resources into goods and services. That has nothing to do with computers. Then we're going to see this production possibilities curve shift out. And there's one more kind of here. I'm going to call this legal/social structure. All right, these social constructs that we use to define society are very, very important. Right? In other words, what we mean by these legal and social structures is that when you have, how can I put this? If there's no rule of law, it's very, very difficult to make contracts. Right? And the contracts don't have to be formalized contracts where it's actually written out and signed and notarized. It can be a social contract that you're making with other people. Right? Same thing here when you have this kind of social structure. If some country has a really strong work ethic, then given these conditions, they're going to be able to make more than a country that has a social structure that doesn't have a strong work ethic. They're going to have all of these resources and quantity and quality and levels of technology, and they'll make less stuff. Right? Or if the legal structure changes in such a way that the rule of law isn't followed anymore and it's corrupt, you're going to have less stuff being made. It's just the way that it is. So when we have these things changing, right, our production possibilities curve, right, in essence, is going to shift out. All right? And so we have here, we have like this guy right here. I'll call this guy point C. Or let's call him point X. So here we have C1 and B1. And thanks to this increase in the quantity or quality of resources, this change in technology, or our legal and social structure changed in such a way that we were actually able to make more stuff. What happens with B1 and C1? What's true about X and what's true about Y? So before we have this change, what's true about X? Possible? Yeah. Efficient? Yes. What's true about Y? Not possible. Now we have this change. Now what's true about X and Y? X is possible and he is inefficient. What's true about Y? He's efficient, right? And you can actually see here that we've got, like, say, C2, B2, right? It's possible for us to make both more beach balls and computers, or we could do something different, right? We could make the same number of computers, more beach balls, we could make the same number of beach balls and more computers, right? Or any combination between. We can make more of both. We can also have these guys going down. All right. Is it possible for a country to have the quantity of its resources diminish? Yeah. Quality? Totally. Technology? I guess, sure. I don't know how that works, but yeah. Legal and social structure, for the country to become more corrupt or people to stop working? Yeah. Yeah.
Earlier I thought you were talking about how those first three stay fixed, and now I'm kind of confused why they can fluctuate.
Because that was a snapshot. That one was saying, where do we want to be? Do we want to be here? Or do we want to be here? We can change the quantity and quality of resources in the long run. Can we change it tomorrow? President Trump gets elected. Trump didn't get elected. Hillary Clinton didn't get elected. Bernie Sanders didn't get elected. George got elected. Fred. His name is George Fred. That's his name. President Fred comes in and says, okay, and in 6 months' time, we're going to have both more national defense spending and more healthcare spending and more education spending, and we're going to create more beach balls and computers. Is that going to be possible? No. Over the long term, could you do it? Possibly. So if these guys are diminishing, what's happening to our production possibilities curve here? He's shifting in. So here we see this guy doing this. So here we've got, what are we looking at, computers and beach balls? C1, B1, right? Now this guy is shifting in. So here's our point X. We had a decrease in our quantity of resources. So what's true about X? He used to be what? Possible and efficient. Now he's not possible. Point Z used to be inefficient and possible. Now point Z is efficient, right? So if you want to see production possibilities curves changing, I mean, you can see that. It's really easy. Here is Kobani, Syria. I don't have the slightest idea where this city is. It's someplace in Syria. Right? And you can get a sense of what it looks like right there. Right? I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea of what they make. I don't know what they make. They make stuff, whatever it is, right? You got all these buildings there and homes and stuff. Clearly, they're making something. Obvious? Right. What's been going on in Syria for a while? Killing each other and blowing stuff up, right? There's what it looks like today. What are they making now? Not much. Because whatever was being made here, whatever that was, can't be made anymore. I mean, look at this. There's no building here that I can see in this picture that has no damage to it. So here's these resources, quantity of labor, quantity of capital, right? Quality of labor, quality of capital, and the quantity and quality have diminished, right? People are dead. The smart people left a long time ago, right? The quantity of labor has gone down, or the quantity of capital has gone down. The quality of capital that's left has gone down. They still have the same levels of technology. I mean, I doubt they're how to turn resources into goods and services changed, unless, of course, all the smart people left, and then the only people that are left are the dumb people. Then maybe the level of technology has gone down, right? And the legal and social structure, what type of social structure do you have now? It's non-existent, right? There's no legal structure. Hey, you parked your car illegally. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. What? Boom, boom, you're dead. There's no legal and social structure there anymore. It's anarchy. Right? So we've seen a diminishment of their production possibilities curves. We'll pick it up from here on Friday.